Hello and welcome back to another video, and today we're here to talk about MotoGP 23 career mode and some of the ideas that you guys would like to see in the game. Now, I did a video a few months ago now where I was talking about what I think needs to change for MotoGP 23, and I said let me know what you guys think about the career mode in the comments. So I decided to go through the comments and have a look and collect up what you guys are saying and just do a bit of a video about it, hoping that maybe someone from Milestone will see it. Probably not, but you know, just to get our ideas out there, I think it'd just be a nice little video idea. So the first thing I've got down here on my list is an F1 My Team style of career mode. Now, of course, we do have a little bit of a My Team element to MotoGP career mode, but not really. There's the establishment of new teams, which is basically like riding for an official team, effectively. Just you can change the colours on the bike. That's it. You don't control anything like the sponsors, the other riders, the bike you use, nothing like that. So a proper F1 My Team style of career mode, which if you haven't played it, really have control of everything. So obviously you control what sponsors go on the car, the colours, obviously like we already have. So basically everything we already have there, the colours, except, and then everything else on top of that. So you control what engine goes in the back of the car. So for example, you could control what bike your team uses in the MotoGP game. You have management over all the different facilities for your team as well. So the marketing facilities, the actual development of the car. Now, of course, in MotoGP, obviously a privateer team wouldn't develop a bike, but for a game, maybe that could be a thing. So you have the Milestone bike or something like that. Maybe it's not called that. You can probably call it what you want, but basically a generic bike that they make that you can upgrade. Or maybe you can just be a customer and buy things from a different team. It'd be cool if you could actually choose which one you want to do. That would be pretty cool. But then, of course, actually hiring a teammate as well. Obviously, in the F1 game, you've got control over which teammate you have. You can train them up. There's like a driver training facility, basically, that you can upgrade as well. So we already have a lot of that in the MotoGP game with the junior teams. So Moto2, Moto3, obviously, there's the different areas that you can put the money in, spend the credits. So again, that's very similar to the F1 My Team. You can sign the riders. You can customize the riders. Obviously, you can actually choose which team you want it to be, but again, it's still closed off. Like, it has to be XYZ sponsor, Honda, things like that. Like, they are already set for you. You can't have a Ducati and then sign whatever sponsor you want, or have a sponsor and get whatever bike you want. It has to be the Milestone determined one. So it'd be really cool if you could actually have a bit more control with that. You know, decide whether you actually want to have your own bike, rent a bike from somebody else. Signing a teammate, it's got to be the number one. It just makes no sense. A lot of people were saying that it makes no sense to see one rider teams. You don't really get them anymore. And you know what, you're 100% right. So that would be something that really does need to be added, a My Team career mode, but also probably have a rider career separately as well for people that just want to stay as it is. But to have a career mode more like the F1 career mode would be really good. So moving on to the second point I've got on my list, and again, something from F1 22 career mode, rider transfers. Of course, the F1 game have had driver transfers for a few years. They didn't for a really long time, and they always said it was to do with licensing, so that could be the same issue here with MotoGP. F1 in the end managed to sneak it into the game. Codemaster snuck it in, and the team seemed to kind of accept it and were okay with that. But Milestone, it might be a bit more difficult to get rider transfers into MotoGP. I'd probably get the impression that maybe like sort of Dawn are a little bit less lenient than sort of Liberty Media are. Obviously, Liberty Media with F1, they've really opened it up a lot in the last few years. But Dorna, I do feel like are a bit more closed off, so they probably won't allow rider transfers, but it would be such a good thing. You know, it could tie in again with the My Team career mode. You could sign a Nea Bastianini to ride for your team, for example, and then someone's got to replace him at Factory Ducati, or even if it's in a rider career mode, if there's no My Team, just having the riders move around. Marc Marquez gets fed up with the Honda, moves off to Yamaha, something like that. Fabio Quartararo, you know, moves, and that allows the space to open up for Marc in the first place. You know, Rins moves to Yamaha or something, Brad Binder moves, you know, anybody. Perhaps someone coming up from Moto2 as well. Pedro Acosta moving up to the factory Red Bull KTM team or something in MotoGP. Just to have that would just freshen up things quite a lot, because of course the seasons get very, very stale. You just play with the same riders year after year, and once you've gone through Moto2 and Moto3, you just in MotoGP basically playing the same season over and over again until the next game comes out. So just to keep it a bit more fresh, I think rider transfers would be amazing. People have been asking for it for years. Obviously that's what you guys want, that's why it's on this list, but I really do think they'll have a hard time at making this one happen. So moving on to the third thing you guys want to see in MotoGP 23 career mode, and that's an actual customizable calendar. Now, again, this ties into the previous point. It gets stale after a while. Obviously, you're playing the same season over and over again, the same tracks in the same order. Now, of course, starting MotoGP 23, the calendar's actually quite shaken up compared to previous years. You know, with Qatar moving towards the back because it's having renovations. We've got a season starting in Europe for the first time in years. Obviously, there was the COVID season, but in the game, it was still Qatar when you actually played that. So, in terms of the MotoGP game, it's been years and years. Probably like MotoGP 06, is it? With Jerez as the opener? that's got to be the last time. So that's a long time. So that'll be a nice breath of fresh air. But of course, after that first season, it's probably going to get a bit stale again. You're playing the same tracks in the same order. Now, of course, they do already have the ability to sort of change the short, medium, long calendar. I think that's great, especially, you know, if you're a bit more of a casual fan. I think that's fantastic. You don't have to sit through like a 20 race season. You can do the seasons a bit more feasibly. You can probably actually make your way through the ranks, especially, you know, if you're busy, you got work, school, whatever. It is difficult to sit there and commit all that time to 20 races a season. So I think that's great. But the ability to customize it on top of that, you know, to start the calendar, start with Valencia if you want to, you know, be able to change things, maybe even be able to change the site of the tests as well. So maybe that the first test isn't always at Sepang, maybe it's somewhere else. You know, the mid-season test isn't always at Catalunya. Well, it probably won't be at Catalunya next year. It probably will be at Misano, the one in the game. I guess we'll have to find out where it actually puts it this year. But the last few years, of course, it's always been Catalunya. So to be able to change the races, the number of races, the race order, I think that'd be really cool. I mean, even incorporated classic tracks as well. That's something the F1 game doesn't really have. Obviously, Customizable Calendar is something the F1 game does have in your second season. But it is quite restrictive, and I think that's a potential opportunity for Milestone to sort of take the lead, because F1's game code is kind of designed around certain races being a certain order. That's why it's a bit more restrictive, that like it can't move forward above a race that's in front of it in real life. Whereas in the MotoGP game, that's not a restriction. You can have whatever track wherever you want. If you mod the game, you can do that. So obviously, Milestone could do that too, so I think that's maybe somewhere they could step ahead of the F1 game, so have a customizable calendar with classic tracks as well. I'm really hoping the classic tracks actually do make a return. I hope it's not just a thing for this game and they're all gone, because to be able to put Brno or Indianapolis or Donington Park back on your calendar, I think that'd be really cool. And again, it just keeps things fresh, and that's what you want. You want the game to be good year-round, because after the first few months, it definitely gets a bit stale. So the fourth thing I've got on the list here is actually something that came up quite a few times, and something I hadn't even really considered, and that's a roamable paddock. So a paddock you can walk around, be able to go to your motorhome, you know, just see people walking through the paddock. Maybe even if you are a bit static, maybe you can just choose where you want to go. A bit like F1 2010, F1 2011 used to have, or maybe like F1 2016, where you were sort of in the paddock area and you could look at your laptop and all this stuff. And even the MotoGP games kind of had this to an extent. In MotoGP 13, 14, 15, you're inside of your own sort of motorhome. You could look at magazines and things like that. Just to have some of that back would be really cool, but to have a proper roamable paddock where you can walk around would be pretty cool. But again, I do understand that would probably be a bit out of scope. So just to even be able to say, you know, go to motorhome, you know, go to interview or something, even to have journalistic interviews, that's not something I even have on the list, but that would be really cool, just to have more of that Paddock Life vibe. That came up quite a few times in the comments, and to be honest, I hadn't even considered it, and that would be fantastic, because again, it's something the F1 games have had in the past. MotoGP games should be looking at the F1 games for inspiration. They are similar. I know people don't like it when you compare the two, but in terms of their motorsport prestige for their particular discipline, motorcycle racing, car racing, they're equivalents. They're the pinnacle, prototype racing, so they need to be, you know, looking at each other. The format they do is similar, so again, they need to be taking inspiration from the F1 games, and the roamable paddock, or just being able to go around the paddock, see the paddock even if it's just the menus, would be really, really cool. So my next point that I've got down here could actually be not just career mode specific, could actually just be in all the modes, but again, of course, we are talking about career mode specifically, and this would be a big thing for career mode, but to have it in the other modes would be great too, and that's just an improved penalty system. I kind of grouped a couple of different ideas I saw in the comments together under this point, and that's the ability for the AI to get penalties. Obviously, the AI, you know, they're constantly knocking each other off, knocking the player off, going off the track on the green, things like that. And obviously, they just don't get penalised for it. The AI can't get penalties. So for the AI to be able to get penalties would be fantastic, because they should be penalised. Sometimes they do the most outrageous move. Even if you don't knock the other guy off, even if you just punt him off the track or something, or just knock him really, really wide, we've seen penalties be awarded for that in real life. That would be great. Obviously, the track limits thing, yeah, it's a little bit annoying, but of course, AI are probably a little bit stupid. Sometimes they do just go on the track limits a little bit. Their line is not correct. So it would be a bit stupid to see every AI get a penalty. But for incidents, you know, where a penalty is warranted, I think that would be good, because the amount of times I'm sure we've all been hit off by the AI, it gets frustrating. To see some actual justice for that would be really good. It'd be cool to see the AI do the long lap penalty. Of course, the AI know how to do the long lap penalty, because you can have the auto long lap on. It's an assist, so the AI does ride around it for you. So the AI can already ride around the long lap. So why not add the ability for them to pick up penalties? And also with this point, the ability to pick up grid penalties, so inappropriate sessions, practice, qualifying for example, or maybe even during a race if you've committed a really egregious act, you should be able to get a grid penalty, maybe start from pit lane, you know, if you've held an AI up or, you know, you've knocked somebody off or maybe you've knocked someone off in the previous race, you should be able to get a penalty for the next race. Again, this should extend to the AI, the ability to get grid penalties. Now, of course, I know that's probably a lot to ask and it does get a bit complicated, but you see this stuff in real life in MotoGP. Someone does an incident in the race, you know, they crash, they're out the race, they take out a few riders with them, they get a grid penalty. So it'd be really, really cool. And again, it just gives the game a bit more realism, and that's just something that the game really does lack at times. Now moving on to my final point, point number 6 I've got written down here, and that's rider injuries. Now, of course, injuries are part of the sport. It is always horrible to see when a rider does get injured, and I'm not asking to see a visual injury or anything like that in the game, because again, that's just not great to see, and also it would probably bring the age rating of the game up, which makes it less accessible, of course. But in some old Superbike games, we did have a rider health system, where, for example, if you fell off, you get back on the bike, but then it just come up in the middle of the screen saying rider injured, and that's it. You were just out of the race. And I think that would be quite a cool feature to have in the career mode. It just makes things more realistic. You could have yourself or the AI potentially pick up an injury. Maybe you have to miss a race, or, you know, this year they're going to have sprint races. You might fall off in the sprint race, hurt yourself, not be able to compete in the regular race. And it just gives a little bit more of a penalty, again, for actually crashing off the bike. Now, of course, it shouldn't happen too frequently, because you don't want to, like, always get an injury every time you fall off, or the AI always get injuries, especially with the AI being stupid. But there should be a chance of it there, because we've seen it in previous games, rider health system. Again, why are we getting rid of features that are in old games, especially when these are Milestone games? Alright, a lot of the other stuff I'm being like, oh, the F1 game's got this, F1 game's got that. Your game has this, bring it back. It just is an easy feature. Again, it doesn't need to be overly graphic, over the top or anything like that. It's fine for me just like to see a sign on the screen saying rider injured or something like that, and that's absolutely fine. And it just brings another element to it, just makes you think about your moves, maybe makes AI potentially, it's just more realistic, because this does happen in MotoGP. Again, obviously, of course, we don't want to see injuries, but it's been in previous games. It'd be a nice feature maybe to just have that you can turn on and off. I think that's absolutely fine. But there we are then, 6 things that you guys think should be added to MotoGP 23 career mode. Let me know if I did miss anything in the comments below, if you have any new ideas. I did read through the comment section of the previous video, just try and put the ideas together, but of course I didn't want the video to be too long or there to be too many points or anything, so if I did miss your idea, I do apologise. But again, like I said, let me know in the comments below, and hopefully some of this stuff will make it into MotoGP 23, or maybe just the games beyond that one. But I hope you did enjoy that one. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Hope you'll stay safe, and I shall see you in the next one.